Good evening, I'm Ryan Benazzo.
And I'm Catalina Gillies. For the first time in 6 years, the former Great West Timber sawmill has been ravaged by a major fire.
The huge flames could be seen across the city's north side last night. Fortunately, no one was hurt. An investigation is now underway to try to determine the cause of this latest blaze, which, as Corey Nordstrom tells us, is reminiscent of the 2015 fire.
This massive fireball lit up the night sky as fire crews scrambled to suppress the blaze at the former Great West Timber property on the city's waterfront. A full arsenal of pumper trucks and aerial ladders were deployed Monday night, taking a defensive stance and managing to protect the other abandoned buildings on the sawmill property.
The building last night, other than I believe one exterior structure wall, is basically completely engulfed, and just the interior contents are now what's left smoldering in there.
The fire is believed to have scorched the former planing mill, a roughly 300-foot-long structure, which Paxton says was full of flammable items.
Grease, oils, obviously sawdust, some product that might have been left behind in there, stored and bundled. And when you have product that's tightly bundled like that, it does take a while to get inside it, to get the water penetrating far enough to stop it from continuing to light up again.
While some fire crews continued to suppress hotspots throughout the day, investigators were on scene taking preliminary note. Deputy Chief Paxton says they're unsure if the Ontario Fire Marshal will be making the trip to Thunder Bay, but he offers some possible causes to the massive fire.
Obviously, weather events are one. Squatters possibly, vandalism.
It's been roughly 6.5 years since the first major fire at Great West Timber. Investigators never determined a cause, and their probe was halted as the owners didn't move ahead with necessary demolition. City officials have confirmed there is an ongoing court case between the city and property owner in the aftermath of that 2015 fire. Dougal Media has reached out to Buchanan Sawmills, which is believed to still own the Great West site, but did not receive any response. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
On to COVID-19 now. There are no new COVID-19 cases being reported today by the Thunder Bay District Health Unit, and the number of active cases has fallen to 20. There are now 4 people in hospital with the virus, including 1 in the ICU. More than 1,200 vaccine shots were administered across the district last week. 340 of those were first doses. According to the Ministry of Health, nearly 94% of eligible people in the TBDHU catchment area have received at least 1 shot, and nearly 90% are fully vaccinated. Meanwhile, there's 1 new COVID case today in the Northwestern Health Unit. It comes from the Dryden-Red Lake area. The number of active cases in the NWHU has fallen to 3. That's 2 fewer than yesterday.
The U.S. land border is now open to fully vaccinated Canadians, but Ottawa still requires a negative PCR test before people can re-enter this country. Those tests usually cost about $200. The head of the regional hospital's COVID testing center says she doesn't anticipate a rush of travelers faking symptoms in order to get them for free, but she admits that's largely an appeal to people's better nature. Local travelers are once again allowed to flow through the U.S. border crossing at Pigeon River, but they can't return to Canada without a negative PCR test taken within 72 hours. Those tests are available for free at the regional hospital, but people who just want to travel don't qualify. The testing center only administers tests to those with COVID symptoms. Manager Jackie Park doesn't think people will try to game the system, but acknowledges there's no real way to know if someone is faking.
We just hope that individuals in our community are good people and that they know that having a test then maybe stops someone who actually is COVID positive from getting a test that day.
Someone like a child. Park says the vast majority of testing is on kids who are too young to get the vaccine.
Currently, I would say 75% is children.
And children, in many cases, need a negative test to return to the classroom.
We want to keep our kids in school this year. The last couple of years have been really hard on the kids, and they can't go to school if they have any symptoms at all. So lots of the testing that we're doing is actually clearing children so they can go back to school and to be checking that there isn't COVID. And we have had several outbreaks in the high schools, and there is currently one in a public school that we're doing testing for.
So while those determined to break the rules may be able to get away with it, it isn't a victimless crime. Well, is Ontario heading back into the fourth wave? That's the warning from a member of the province's COVID-19 Science Advisory Table. That comes amidst a slight increase in the 7-day average of new infections. Health officials aren't sounding the alarm just yet, but are reminding people to stay vigilant as we continue through the pandemic. Colin DeMello has more.
2 weeks after Ontario lifted capacity limits on restaurants and gyms, and the province seems to no longer be on its pandemic plateau. The 7-day average of new cases is slowly rising, along with the concern over what it all could mean.
Right now we have a doubling time of 17 days, meaning if this continues like that, 500 cases per day right now on average will become about 1,000 cases per day in about 2.5 weeks from now.
In Sudbury, health officials are reimposing restrictions such as capacity limits. The region has the highest case count in the province, and they say they needed to introduce a circuit breaker to cool off the increase. But health experts say the rest of the province doesn't need to take the same route, especially because hospitals are not experiencing the same surge.
We are not seeing hospitalizations increase at the same sort of rate, but that's not unusual because hospitalizations and ICU admissions and death will lag behind the case counts. We've seen that throughout this pandemic.
Instead, some in public health believe the province needs to be more targeted.
You know, if things do take off in a more exponential kind of manner rather than just trickling up, then I think we have to look really hard at some of those higher risk kind of settings. So if there are certain workplaces or settings where we're seeing that there are more outbreaks occurring, then targeting our interventions to that too.
The province's Science Advisory Table, in the meantime, says everyone could be a little bit more cautious.
I believe there will be a lot of people again who could think about, do I really need to work in the office downtown or can I work from home? When I look at sports arenas, loads of people don't wear their masks. When I look, in some of the restaurants, just the passing weekend, a lot of restaurants were so crowded. Do I really want to go inside into a really crowded restaurant, etc.? Then, restaurant owners, do they really use vaccine certificates properly?
The Ford government has said province-wide lockdowns are out of the equation, that more regional restrictions would be in order. But the province is also planning to remove masking and proof of vaccination requirements over the next 4.5 months, a strategy that could be sidelined if the current trends continue.
The leader of the Ontario NDP is in Thunder Bay to address the ongoing mental health and addiction epidemic in the city. Andrea Horvath is calling for urgent investments into mental health and addiction care to curb the rise in overdoses and reduce pressure on the regional hospital. Danielle Bain has the story.
Doing everything you possibly can to keep your child alive. I mean, you can't put a price tag on that.
Carolyn Carl lost her 31-year-old daughter Dana to an overdose in September and has become a vocal advocate for mental health and addiction care. A recent awareness walk drew more than 200 people. Carl was invited to this news conference by NDP leader Andrea Horvath and local MPP Judith Monteith-Farrell as they highlighted the lack of addiction services in the city. Horvath says change needs to happen now.
It's a matter of resources, it's a matter of funding. The community has come together with quite a proposal that will help, that will actually literally help save lives, and Doug Ford's sitting on it, and as a result, we continue to see people lose their lives to overdoses. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be happening.
The proposal Horvath is talking about is a new 40-bed detox center. With only 25 beds in the entire city right now, 3,000 people are turned away from getting help every year. Carl is hopeful that if she and others keep advocating, there will finally be a breakthrough.
I'm really hopeful. I think it's the right thing to do, and I think the northern community up here, we're very much in need, and it would be a shame if we don't get help, because people are dying every day. I can't see how we wouldn't get help. It's something we really need to advocate for, and I believe we're going to be heard. It has to happen. It's a mental health and addiction crisis.
Not only is Carl advocating for more resources for the detox stage, she says that aftercare is a huge passion of hers. She says that making sure people have the right support after detox or rehabilitation is imperative to recovery.
You know, from a treatment facility, I think you need to go into aftercare to learn life skills, to have some great experiences, to be able to become strong enough to thrive in the community and not relapse.
Horvath says she'll continue to put pressure on Doug Ford ahead of the provincial election in June of next year, especially when it comes to funding these necessary initiatives.
I can't imagine how much worse things will be if he gets another chance to keep cutting and refusing to fix the the concerns that communities like Thunder Bay have.
Horvath will continue her local tour in Shunya on Wednesday. Danielle Bain, TBT News.
There's some good news to report in Manitouwadge. The township's 21 volunteer firefighters have agreed to return to duty, pending the outcome of an urgent meeting with the mayor and council tomorrow. The firefighters all took a sudden leave of absence yesterday, leaving residents and business owners to rely on fire crews in Marathon, more than an hour away. Deputy Fire Chief Denis Narbonne won't reveal the exact cause of the dispute, but he cited a lack of communication regarding the plan to hire a new fire chief between the CAO, council, and firefighters. The volunteer members were back on duty as of 4 o'clock this afternoon as they await a private meeting with Manitouwadge Council tomorrow evening.
We have had many discussions over the last 24 hours with the Emergency Management Ontario and Ontario Fire Marshals, the Office of the Fire Marshal, who have provided us with great guidance and support. And right now, our mutual aid agreement is still in place with the town of Marathon, and we are thankful to them who have been so generous with their patience, time, and support. And we're confident that we will be able to reach a mutual agreement with the members of the fire department and how to move forward together in the best interest of the township and the citizens.
Manitouwadge residents had expressed growing concern about the lack of fire service coverage, as well as the potential impact on fire insurance and highway collision response if the firefighters didn't return to duty.
Thunder Bay City Council will explore options to add extra safety netting at all city-run arenas. Councillors approved a motion from Mayor Bill Morrow asking administration to study the matter further. The report from city staff will include the cost of installation as well as funding sources. Those details should come back to Council by January, in time to be discussed during 2022 budget deliberations. Monday's meeting gave councillors a chance to express their opinions and concerns, which they'd like to be addressed in administration's report.
It says here on the report that's approximately $87.50 per site. So in regards to Port Arthur Arena, because there's seating all the way around, that would be double the price then. We're roughly looking at $18,000 there.
If you wanted to take it down for figure skating or for kids, I personally would rather see my kids without the net in the way. I'd rather watch the kids play. So could I maybe a little commentary on that component?
The issue of additional netting first came up in 2020. At that time, the maximum price tag was estimated at just over $136,000.
A section of Donald Street in front of City Hall will soon become a one-way street for eastbound traffic only. The change between Brodie and May Streets will take effect next Tuesday and is meant to address traffic safety concerns voiced by city transit drivers and riders. The city plans to close that block of Donald tomorrow and on Monday to remove any pavement markings that aren't required and to install new signage and markings. Additional on-street parking spots will also be added, and existing parallel parking spots will be converted to angled parking. Engineering Director Kayla Dixon says the switch to one-way will provide more room for motorists.
When the buses are parked in front of City Hall, they're largely straddling the center line. So there's not enough room for the 2 lanes of traffic as well as the bus bays. And so right now we're just looking at one-waying the street to provide that full lane of traffic that we need. And it'll just provide some more safety there as well.
Drivers are reminded to use extra caution and obey all posted signage when traveling in the area during the temporary closures, and of course once the switch to one-way is completed as well.
Event organizers and local charity reps gathered at Manitoulin Transport today to announce details of the 22nd annual Parade of Lights. The big event was last held in 2019. It had to be canceled last year due to the pandemic. This year's bright and colorful spectacle will be held on Saturday, December 4th, running from Manitoulin Transport to Water Street. Parade walkers will be along the route collecting donations to benefit 4 local special needs charities: the George Jeffrey Children's Centre, Autism Ontario, Special Olympics, and Therapeutic Riding. Event chair Greg Stevenson is thrilled to revive the parade.
Yeah, we were ecstatic when we got the call from the city saying that we were able to go ahead with the parade thanks to the being cleared by the district health unit. Obviously, we're still having to conform to COVID restrictions, but yeah, we're ecstatic, and we're hoping that we get a lot of trucks and a lot of people out to watch, and we have fun and raise some money for the 4 charities.
It's great to see the trucks moving down the streets, all the kids happy, and it's great directing traffic, even though it's intense sometimes. But it is fun doing it, and it's fun seeing all the happy faces.
Attendees are asked to spread out along the route to avoid creating dense crowds, and mask wearing is encouraged if physical distancing cannot be maintained. A sensory-friendly area will also be included on Fort William Road between Queen and Water Streets for people that are bothered by loud noises.
Well, I know there's some extra safety precautions that have to be put in place, but great to have that event back. It's always a lot of fun. And just a reminder, if you missed any of our local stories today or you want to watch them again, they will be posted to tbnewswatch.com a little later this evening. Well, Fiona, it was another double-digit day out there.